Ladies and gentlemen, imagine if the most important person in your life, the one who shapes your day, your energy and your mindset, was actually yourself. How often do we talk to ourselves with encouragement, kindness and belief, or do we sometimes become our harshest critics? Today, I want to share something powerful, inspired by Gaur Gopal that can transform your life in just 3 days. Yes, just 3 days. Because the way you talk to yourself is the foundation of everything you achieve. And it only takes a few conscious moments to change your world. Our thoughts and words are far more powerful than most of us realize. Every sentence we speak to ourselves is not just a passing comment in our minds. It is a seed planted in the fertile soil of our consciousness. And what we nurture with repetition grows. Imagine a tiny thought of doubt whispered in the quiet corners of your mind. I am not good enough. If repeated often, that single line begins to color your perception, dictating your actions, your confidence, and even the opportunities you allow yourself to pursue. On the other hand, if you consciously feed your mind phrases like, I am capable, I am growing, I can overcome this challenge, the internal narrative transforms into a powerful, motivating force. Words are not just reflections of reality, they are the architects of it. When you speak to yourself positively, you are essentially training your brain to see possibilities where before it saw obstacles. Science shows that our brains respond to language and thought patterns as though they are real experiences. When you affirm your potential, your brain starts to prepare your body and your mind to act in alignment with those affirmations. Confidence begins to seep naturally into your posture, your tone, and your decisions. Even in moments of difficulty, the words you choose internally can dictate whether you approach challenges with fear or with determination. The story you tell yourself has a direct effect on the life you lead. Most people underestimate the subtle, consistent influence of self-talk. We may hear that positive thinking matters, but we rarely recognize that negative self-talk is like a silent thief, gradually eroding confidence, creativity, and resilience. Every critical remark we allow ourselves to make becomes a pattern. If your inner dialogue consistently says, I can't handle this, or this is too hard for me, your brain internalizes those phrases and begins to behave as though they are truths. The fascinating part is that this process works in reverse as well. The brain does not differentiate between words spoken aloud and words spoken internally. It reacts to both. By consciously choosing affirming and empowering words, you are actively programming your brain for success rather than defeat. This is where the practice of mindful self-talk becomes transformative. It is not about blindly repeating cliches or empty motivational phrases. It is about deliberately engaging with your inner narrative, questioning negative assumptions and replacing them with constructive, encouraging language. Each time you choose words that uplift and guide you, you reinforce pathways in the brain that make confidence, clarity, and resilience more natural responses to life's challenges. Over time, this builds an internal foundation that becomes difficult to shake, even in the face of external adversity. What makes this even more compelling is that our self-talk influences not just how we feel internally, but also how others perceive us. People intuitively pick up on the confidence, calmness, and determination that emerge from a mind trained to speak positively. By reshaping the dialogue you have with yourself, you are also reshaping your presence, your interactions, and the energy you radiate into the world. Words, even when silent, have the power to ripple outward, creating tangible effects in your life that extend far beyond your own mind. Ultimately, speaking to yourself with care, intention, and belief is one of the simplest yet most profound tools for personal transformation. It requires no external resources, no special circumstances, and no validation from others. It simply requires awareness, commitment, and the understanding that your words are not just descriptive, they are creative. Each phrase you utter internally is either a brick in the foundation of your confidence or a crack in the walls of your potential. The more consistently you choose words that reflect possibility, strength, and growth, the more your reality begins to align with the life you envision. Self-doubt is one of the most insidious obstacles we face, often creeping in quietly and steadily, undermining our potential without us even realizing it. It disguises itself as caution, humility, or realism, but in truth, it has the power to limit every decision, every opportunity, and every step forward we take. Each time we pause before trying something new because we tell ourselves, "I'm not ready or I might fail," we reinforce a mental pattern that conditions our brain to expect failure. This subtle internal dialogue shapes not only how we perceive challenges, but also how we respond to them. Self-doubt is not a reflection of reality, it is a habit of the mind. And like any habit, it can be replaced, rewired, and transformed. The most effective tool for this transformation is self-belief. Replacing self-doubt with self-belief does not mean ignoring risks or pretending that challenges do not exist. It means consciously choosing to trust in your abilities, in your resilience, and in your capacity to learn. When you say to yourself, "I am capable of figuring this out," or "I can handle what comes my way," you are sending a powerful signal to your mind and body. This signal encourages action instead of hesitation, creativity instead of fear, and confidence instead of indecision. Over time, the repetition of this positive self-talk forms new neural pathways, gradually reshaping your brain to respond to challenges with courage rather than avoidance. Belief in oneself acts as a foundation for growth because it changes the lens through which we view obstacles. Self-doubt magnifies risks, amplifies fear, and focuses attention on the possibility of failure. Self-belief, on the other hand, frames challenges as opportunities for learning, growth, and progress. When you consciously choose belief over doubt, you shift from a reactive mindset to a proactive one. Instead of asking, "Will I succeed?" you begin to ask, "What can I do to make this work?" The shift is subtle but profound, turning hesitation into momentum and uncertainty into curiosity. One of the most compelling aspects of cultivating self-belief is the effect it has on decision-making and personal initiative. People who habitually replace self-doubt with belief are far more likely to take risks that lead to meaningful progress. They approach goals with a sense of possibility, not paralysis, and view failures as temporary setbacks rather than permanent verdicts. This mindset does not guarantee perfection, but it guarantees growth, because every step forward is guided by the underlying assurance that one has the capacity to handle whatever comes next. It is important to recognize that self-belief is not arrogance or entitlement. It is grounded, realistic, and deeply personal. It is a commitment to trusting in your own capabilities while acknowledging that mistakes and challenges are inevitable. The practice of replacing self-doubt with self-belief involves consistent attention, noticing when doubt arises, challenging the assumptions behind it, and deliberately affirming your ability to meet the challenge. Over time, this practice strengthens not only confidence, but also resilience, focus, and emotional stability. The process of cultivating self-belief also transforms how we interact with the world around us. When you approach tasks, relationships, and opportunities with confidence, others respond to your energy. Trust and credibility are naturally built because self-belief radiates outward in the form of clarity, decisiveness, and calm assurance. The ripple effect extends beyond your internal mindset, influencing how people perceive you, the opportunities you attract, and the level of impact you are able to create. Ultimately, self-belief is not something we are born with. It is a skill that can be developed, strengthened, and maintained through conscious effort. It begins with awareness, the willingness to challenge self-limiting thoughts, and the consistent practice of affirming one's own capability. Each time you choose belief over doubt, you are taking an active role in shaping not only your mindset, but also your life trajectory. The simple act of replacing self-doubt with self-belief transforms hesitation into action, fear into courage, and potential into achievement. Many people underestimate the power of self-support, assuming that encouragement must always come from external sources, friends, mentors, or family. Yet the most influential voice in shaping your life is the one that speaks within your own mind. Being your own cheerleader is about cultivating a mindset of internal encouragement, recognizing your strengths and affirming your worth, even when no one else seems to notice. It is about treating yourself with the same compassion, respect, and motivation that you would offer to someone you deeply care about. The energy you give yourself in moments of doubt or challenge becomes the fuel for your actions, resilience, and growth. Being your own cheerleader starts with awareness. Many people live their lives reacting to criticism, both external and internal, without realizing how harshly they speak to themselves. Phrases like, "I'll never succeed," or "I'm not good enough," are often repeated unconsciously, shaping perceptions and behavior in ways that limit potential. By consciously choosing to speak words of encouragement, you are actively reshaping the mental environment in which your goals and ambitions grow. This is not an act of vanity or self-indulgence. It is a practice of practical psychology. When your inner dialogue is supportive, your brain interprets challenges as manageable rather than threatening, and your ability to take risks, learn, and persist increases dramatically. The act of cheering yourself on also changes the way you approach failures and setbacks. Life inevitably presents obstacles, mistakes, and moments of disappointment. But the difference between someone who thrives and someone who struggles often lies in the internal response to those events. When you are your own cheerleader, a failure is reframed not as a verdict but as a lesson, a stepping stone toward improvement. Instead of succumbing to frustration or self-criticism, you acknowledge the setback, encourage yourself to keep going, and reinforce the belief that progress is always possible. This internal reinforcement builds resilience and sustains motivation in ways that external praise alone cannot achieve. Another essential aspect of being your own cheerleader is the cultivation of consistent self-recognition. Celebrating small wins, acknowledging effort, and appreciating your dedication is a powerful way to maintain momentum. Too often, people wait for external validation, which is unpredictable and outside of their control. By developing the habit of internally celebrating accomplishments, however minor, you create a continuous source of motivation that propels you forward. This practice strengthens self-confidence and fosters a sense of personal accountability, as your progress is acknowledged and valued by the person who matters most, you. Being your own cheerleader also influences how others perceive and interact with you. When you project confidence, positivity, and self-assurance, it becomes contagious. People naturally gravitate toward individuals who display inner strength and optimism, and your energy sets the tone for collaboration, leadership, and influence. Self-support, therefore, is not just an internal exercise. It is a form of personal leadership. By demonstrating that you believe in yourself, you signal to the world that your abilities and efforts are credible, reliable, and worthy of respect. The practice of cheering yourself on requires deliberate effort, especially in the early stages. It means noticing negative self-talk, consciously replacing it with affirming statements, and consistently reinforcing the habit through daily reflection and mental rehearsal. Over time, these small intentional acts accumulate, transforming the internal narrative from doubt and criticism to confidence and encouragement. You begin to approach challenges with optimism, setbacks with resilience, and achievements with humility and gratitude, creating a mental environment where growth becomes natural. Ultimately, being your own cheerleader is about taking responsibility for your internal dialogue and recognizing the profound impact it has on your life. The voice inside your head is not just commentary, it is a force that shapes your beliefs, choices, and outcomes. By cultivating a habit of encouragement, affirmation, and self-respect, you create a foundation that sustains motivation, builds resilience, and fosters the kind of inner strength that propels long-term success. It is one of the most practical and transformative practices a person can develop, and it begins with the simple decision to treat yourself as your most important supporter. Change often feels like a distant goal, something that requires months or even years of effort. Yet the truth is that transformation can begin in a matter of days if approached intentionally. The first 72 hours of focused mindset work can set the stage for a profound shift in perception, confidence, and motivation. It is not about superficial changes or fleeting enthusiasm. It is about planting seeds of new thought patterns that, when nurtured, grow into lasting behavioral and emotional transformation. Even 3 days of consciously directing your self-talk, focusing on your strengths, and reinforcing positive habits can create a momentum that carries far beyond that initial period. The mind operates on patterns. Habits are formed through repetition, and the brain begins to recognize and internalize consistent thoughts as truth. This is why short intentional bursts of focus can have outsized effects. By deliberately speaking to yourself with encouragement, affirmation, and belief for just 3 days, you are rewiring your neural pathways. Your brain begins to respond differently to challenges and opportunities. Where doubt once dominated, confidence starts to emerge. Where fear previously caused hesitation, curiosity and courage take root. The small window of 3 days is powerful because it is long enough to break automatic patterns of negative thinking, yet short enough to be achievable, creating a sense of accomplishment that further reinforces the change. In these 3 days, attention and consistency are critical. It is not enough to simply hope for change. You must actively engage with your internal dialogue, noticing every negative thought and replacing it with constructive, empowering statements. Each affirmation is like a drop of water in the soil of your mind, gradually saturating the ground and preparing it for growth. When repeated consistently over 72 hours, these mental exercises build a rhythm and familiarity that allows your brain to start defaulting toward positivity rather than doubt. This initial shift, though small, is the catalyst for larger, more enduring transformation. What makes 3 days particularly significant is the psychological principle of momentum. When we experience quick, observable shifts in thought or emotion, our motivation is amplified. Seeing progress in such a short time reinforces the belief that change is possible, which in turn fuels continued effort. This is why short, focused exercises in self-talk, visualization, or positive habit formation are so effective. They create an early sense of mastery, which propels you to maintain and expand the practice. In just 3 days, a new mental framework begins to take shape, one in which challenges are approached with curiosity, setbacks are framed as opportunities, and personal potential is acknowledged rather than questioned. The 3-day framework also highlights the power of immediacy. Often, people wait for the perfect conditions, for the right moment to begin self-improvement. And in doing so, they delay transformation indefinitely. By committing to a short, defined period of focused mindset work, you bypass the paralysis that comes from overthinking or waiting. This concentrated effort sends a clear message to your subconscious that you are taking responsibility for your thoughts, your beliefs, and ultimately your life. It demonstrates that change is not dependent on external circumstances, but on deliberate, conscious action. Another key aspect of this approach is the amplification effect. Small, consistent changes in thinking over 3 days create ripple effects in behavior, relationships, and decision-making. Confidence begins to influence how you communicate, how you pursue goals, and how you respond to challenges. The impact is immediate and visible, reinforcing the power of mindset as a driver of action. What begins as a small internal shift quickly extends outward, affecting every facet of your life. Ultimately, the significance of 3 days lies in its ability to show that transformation does not require monumental effort or perfect conditions. It demonstrates that meaningful change is a product of deliberate focus, consistency, and conscious self-talk. By committing to just 72 hours of intentional mindset work, you create a foundation that supports long-term growth, resilience, and confidence. The brain, the mind, and the heart begin to align, forming the starting point of a journey that can reshape your life. The words we speak to ourselves are far more than mere reflections of thought. They are the very instruments that shape our reality, ignite courage, and propel us into action. Every statement we repeat internally has the power to influence our emotions, guide our decisions, and ultimately determine the trajectory of our lives. When words are chosen with intention, they become fuel for bravery and motivation, creating an internal climate where action is not only possible, but inevitable. Conversely, words rooted in doubt, fear, or self-criticism act as invisible chains, restricting potential and keeping us from stepping into the life we are capable of living. Recognizing the transformative power of language is the first step toward harnessing it as a tool for empowerment. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. And words are the spark that ignites this ability. Every time we face uncertainty, a decision, or a challenge, our internal dialogue frames how we respond. If the mind whispers, "I can't do this," or "I am not ready," hesitation solidifies into inaction, and opportunities are lost before they are even attempted. However, when we intentionally speak words of affirmation, such as "I am prepared to learn and grow," or "I am capable of overcoming this challenge," we send signals to the subconscious mind that instill confidence and readiness. This deliberate self-communication shifts perception from limitation to possibility, allowing courage to surface naturally and action to follow. Words also fuel action by creating clarity and focus. When we articulate intentions with precision, whether internally or aloud, the mind is directed toward tangible goals. Statements like "I will take one step today toward my objective," or "I will handle this task with focus and persistence," channel mental energy into behavior. The act of verbalizing or mentally affirming these intentions transforms abstract thought into concrete action. It reduces procrastination, diminishes uncertainty, and aligns the subconscious mind with conscious objectives. By reinforcing clarity through words, we create a bridge between desire and execution, between potential and achievement. The ripple effect of words extends beyond the internal sphere into observable behavior. Individuals who habitually use empowering self-talk often find themselves more resilient in the face of obstacles. Challenges that once triggered hesitation are approached with composure and determination because the internal narrative frames them as manageable rather than insurmountable. Courage fueled by words manifests as initiative, persistence, and the willingness to take calculated risks. Each action, no matter how small, reinforces the internal belief system, creating a feedback loop where words generate courage, courage generates action, and action reinforces the power of words. Another essential aspect of words as catalysts for courage is their ability to shift emotional states. Fear, doubt, and anxiety are not just mental constructs. They are biochemical responses influenced by perception. When we consciously replace negative internal statements with words of confidence and possibility, we alter the emotional landscape. Heart rate stabilizes, stress diminishes, and clarity emerges. This emotional recalibration enables us to act decisively and think strategically even in high-pressure situations. Words, therefore, are not abstract. They are practical tools for aligning mind, body, and emotion toward effective action. The impact of words is cumulative. Consistent use of empowering self-talk strengthens neural pathways associated with confidence, resilience, and focus. Over time, the brain begins to default to positive, action-oriented patterns, making courage and initiative more instinctive than reactive. This demonstrates that words are not merely motivational, they are structural, shaping the architecture of our habits, our decisions, and our lived experience. By choosing words with care and intent, we do not just inspire temporary bursts of bravery, we cultivate enduring capacity for action, perseverance, and achievement. Ultimately, the language we use internally determines the lens through which we experience life, the energy we bring to challenges, and the consistency with which we act. Words are not passive, they are engines of transformation, converting thought into courage and courage into meaningful action. Every carefully chosen phrase, every affirmation, and every deliberate statement of belief is a step toward actualizing potential, embracing opportunity, and moving decisively toward the life we envision. The most common barrier to progress is not a lack of talent, opportunity, or resources. It is the habit of waiting. We wait for the right time, the perfect circumstances, or the external signal that gives us permission to act. In reality, that perfect moment rarely arrives. Life moves forward regardless of our readiness, and every day spent waiting is an opportunity lost. The decision to start now, without waiting or making excuses, is a defining moment in personal growth. It transforms hesitation into momentum, intention into action, and potential into achievement. Starting immediately requires a shift in mindset, from perfection to possibility. Waiting is often fueled by a desire for conditions to be flawless, a belief that we must be fully prepared before taking action. Yet the truth is that preparation and readiness grow most effectively in the act of doing. Each step taken, no matter how small, builds experience, knowledge, and confidence. Waiting, by contrast, breeds doubt and stagnation. By committing to start now, you embrace imperfection as a necessary part of growth and recognize that progress is made through effort, persistence, and the willingness to engage with uncertainty. Action also has a compounding effect that waiting cannot replicate. Every decision to move forward generates momentum, and momentum, once initiated, carries energy into subsequent steps. A single act of courage or initiative creates a chain reaction. Confidence grows, skills develop, and opportunities begin to present themselves. The power of starting now lies in its ability to create this self-reinforcing cycle. The first step may feel small or insignificant, but it catalyzes change in ways that anticipation and planning alone cannot. By taking immediate action, you position yourself ahead of those who remain paralyzed by hesitation or doubt. Excuses, both conscious and subconscious, are obstacles that prevent us from taking immediate action. Common excuses include fear of failure, concern about judgment, or uncertainty about the outcome. While these feelings are natural, giving them power allows them to dictate our behavior. Choosing to act despite them is an act of self-mastery. It signals to the mind and body that progress is more important than comfort, that learning and growth outweigh temporary fear, and that your potential is worth pursuing regardless of circumstances. Every time an excuse is set aside and action is taken, the internal voice of doubt weakens and the voice of capability strengthens. Starting now also changes the perception of time and urgency. Many people underestimate the impact of consistent effort initiated immediately. Small actions taken today accumulate into significant results over weeks, months, and years. Conversely, postponement allows opportunities to pass unnoticed and habits of inaction to solidify. By committing to start immediately, you harness the power of the present moment, transforming it into a foundation for future achievement. The immediacy of action reinforces responsibility, accountability, and the understanding that control over life resides in the choices made now rather than at some undefined point in the future. Action initiated without delay is also deeply motivating. Once the first step is taken, the brain interprets this behavior as proof of commitment and capability. Confidence increases, fear diminishes, and the psychological barriers that previously seemed insurmountable begin to crumble. This process is self-reinforcing. Starting now leads to progress. Progress builds belief, and belief generates further action. The simplicity of this principle is often overlooked, yet its impact is profound. It demonstrates that the moment of decision, the courage to begin immediately, holds more transformative power than any extensive planning or perfect preparation. The choice to start now is ultimately a choice of empowerment. It is a declaration that you are willing to take control of your life, prioritize action over procrastination, and embrace the journey of growth with intention and courage. Each moment spent acting with purpose strengthens resilience, sharpens focus, and reinforces the internal belief that you are capable of shaping your own future. By releasing the habit of waiting and abandoning excuses, you create a trajectory of consistent progress, turning intention into tangible results and dreams into achievable realities. So, I challenge you today, talk to yourself like this for just 3 days. Observe the magic that unfolds. Watch your doubts shrink, your courage grow, and your life begin to shift. Remember, the person you spend the most time with should be your biggest supporter. So choose to speak with love, positivity, and encouragement. Because when you start treating yourself as your own best friend, the world around you begins to transform too. Start today, speak kindly, and let those 3 days be the beginning of a lifetime of self-belief. Thank you